everyone. Welcome back to another podcast. We are on the Cooper Hernick podcast channel. Today, I've got a really special conversation lined up for you guys. We're diving into a really interesting topic. We are going to learn about what it's like it being Jewish living in Texas, and even more interestingly, my guest today, Alex Ignatow. Wave to all the guests. My guest, Alex. Give him a wave. Um, so he also has deep roots within the Turkish Jewish community, and Alex is a Texas native, um, with a Jewish background. He's here to share what it's like growing up Jewish um, in a state where Jewish life isn't always in the spotlight. We are going to talk about his family history, traditions, um, uh, and how his Jewish identity fits into Texas culture today. And if you're curious about Jewish communities in unexpected places, or you just love learning about Jewish traditions, this episode is definitely for you. And before we dive in, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and drop a comment if you have any thoughts or questions. Now let's jump into it. We're first going to start with Alex's Turkish identity. So, Alex, can you share what you know about your family's Jewish history in Turkey?
Yeah, I mean, we don't. It's actually a good question because we don't really like. For me personally, for my family personally, we don't actually have any we don't have any Jewish relatives or Jewish family that ever lived in Turkey. But I know all. But when it comes to the history of the Jewish people that lived in Turkey, I know all about them because I looked into it a little bit, and it's actually really interesting. But we don't have anyone in my family who's Jewish that lived there or that is from there, right, basically.
So, what you're saying is that it's the like it's the non-Jewish half of your family because you're only half.
Yeah,
Uh, Very interesting.
yeah.
Um, so, to follow up with that, um, Uh, what are some unique traditions, customs, and Jewish and foods that were passed down in your family in Turkey? And, and have these traditions or foods or customs stayed with you as you migrated to the great state of Texas?
I mean, that's actually a really good question. Yeah, so there's actually a lot of traditions. So and it's actually really interesting because since my mom's family, since they were or when they were my mom's mom, my mom's dad, when they were younger and what, and they were non-religious, they were moderate Muslims. They were Muslims, but they weren't really religious. They weren't really into that. They were never My mom's family was never really religious at all. So there are a lot of customs though that they celebrate over there. If it has nothing that have nothing to do with religion, they're just holidays and customs and stuff. There's so there's this one holiday. It's really famous, and any Turkish person will know it. And I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but it's okay. It's called Bayram, and what it basically means is that there's I forget what we do for the normal the regular holiday, but there's a sub variant or a variant of the holiday that's for all the kids and for all not really kids, but it's for all the young people in Turkey. Bayram, and what it basically is, I remember whenever I came, I don't remember what I did for that holiday when I was in Turkey because I was 3 years old or 2 years old. I just don't remember. But whenever I came to Texas, and we my mom has these all these Turkish friends in Texas, literally in the city we live in or in the area metroplex we live in Dallas Fort Worth. What we used to do, and we did this for 10 or 15 years, is that one of my mom's Turkish friends, they have kind of they have a bigger house and what, and this was this was a while ago, we did 10, 15 years in a row. It was from 2007 when we first moved there to 2022. I think that's about how long it was, exactly, yeah. And so what we do is they'd invite us to their house for Bayram. They'd invite a ton of of all these like a ton of families. Like they have a pretty big house, or they did at that time, and then like they'd invite like 10, 15 families or something. And then what the holiday is all about is basically you like the all these different people that are invited to want to celebrate. They like exchange gifts and stuff, and but like actually there's actually a kind of a part of it that's really interesting because it's really similar to like Chinese New Year, because what it is that like you can exchange gifts with people and what, but that's not really like technically the custom. The custom is what you do is like for the kids Byron, for like the young people. What basically they do is basically they like exchange these like envelopes, and the envelopes are filled with money in them, and it's really cool because what it is that like I remember one year we did it. We like and I was like older. It was only a few years ago, but then what I remember what we did is that like I walked like I was at their like house for the celebration, and that then what we did is like all these adults we were like walking down a line, and all these adults were handing out like these like envelopes, and they were filled with tons of money, like American dollars. It was like a lot of it, and they're handing it out to all the kids and all the young people. Well, what we had to do is whenever they handed us their envelopes money, we would have to like kiss their hand. It's like a really cool holiday. So whenever we celebrate that, it's actually pretty similar to Chinese New Year because from my understanding, like Chinese New Year does something similar with like red envelopes and money. Like I don't know exactly what they do. I'm not Chinese, but like they do something similar. So it's a really cool holiday. They do that. There's that. And then and then actually like I mean since like my mom's family like they're not Muslim, like if you're Turkish Muslim they do all these like Muslim like Islamic holidays and holidays that are in the religion of Islam, but like my mom's families they're not Muslim anymore or anything. So like pretty much when it comes to holidays, I just think that's like the only holiday I ever remember celebrating. Like I don't remember celebrating anything else. Like when it comes to Turkish wise. So yeah,
Fascinating.
yeah,
And you were saying that your mom's family comes from Turkey, that they aren't Muslim anymore. What faith do they follow now? Christianity? Are they agnostic, atheist?
yeah. Like so, pretty much they're like agnostic. My mom, like she's not like my dad
Interesting.
is. Yeah, like my dad is Jewish. My mom has always been agnostic because like they just decided like I guess it's just like they're just not really interested in religion. Like I mean, it's just not really for them. I mean, that's just kind of all
Very
I really know
interesting.
about it. Yeah, basically.
Next question. How did your ancestors end up leaving Turkey, and how did they end up settling in the United States? Like, did they move straight from Turkey to Texas, Texas, as they say in Spanish?
I don't think. I mean, from what I know from our history, like and everything. I mean, my mom's like. I remember this was back in like 2013 or 2012. It was a long time ago. It was over a decade ago. But like, I actually visited my mom's like hometown or home city in Turkey with my younger sister. We were like little kids, and my grandmother and my mom's mom. We visited there. It's in southern Turkey. It's not very far from Israel. The city's called Adana, and I'm saying it wrong, but again, like it's hard to say. Like Adana
Mhm.
is like that's where it is. It's in southern Turkey. It's pretty close to Israel because I think it's just across. I think it's the Mediterranean Sea. I'm pretty sure if I'm correct in that. I mean, maybe I'm wrong,
Yeah.
but yeah. So basically visited there, and we saw. I saw my mom's like my mom's grandmother, and like I saw like my mom, my great grandparents there on my mom's side and stuff. And it was a really nice city and everything. But like the thing is that like my mom's family has never left Turkey. Like they always lived there, basically. Like they've always lived there. So we just left because we were able to, or like because we wanted to, and that kind of thing. They've kind of always lived there. They lived in Istanbul. They live in like Adana. They live in like my cousins live in a city called Bodrum, which is it's called Bodrum. It's like a vacation kind of city, and now it's getting to be a bigger city, like an actual like big city now, but like it was originally a vacation city. It's in like southern Turkey and stuff too. It's on like the beaches and the coastline there. So like they never left. Yeah, pretty much they've always lived there.
Very interesting. It's a really good geography lesson. Thank you for that. Um, how many times have you visited Turkey um, in your travels?
Um, I I mean I mean I was born there in 2004. I lived there for like a year, and then 2004 2005, and then from what I remember is like I mean like I can really just kind of predict it. I would pretty much go with my family every year from like ever since I came to America from like 2007 all the way to like 2020. So I think it was like, and we would always go every summer, like from 2007 all the way till 2020. So I think it's just like 13 times. If I'm doing, I mean, I could be totally off, but
13.
like,
Wow.
yeah,
That's
because
a
I mean,
lot of
like,
times.
yeah, because we would go to Istanbul, like, and we would only visit Istanbul, and then I'd go there every year with my mom and sister. We just fly there, and it's a really long flight. It's exhausting and all stuff, but it's worth it to see my grandparents. And then we basically went there every single year from 2007 all the way till 2020, and then right until COVID hit and like everything locked down, and that was kind of different for different cities and different states. All it's different states in America were different. Different cities in America were different with that, but then different countries were different. But then like that whole lockdown and the pandemic like destroyed like Istanbul and like shuttered the economy, and they were in like a recession like right off the bat and stuff. So like because
Fascinating.
it's such a crowded city, it's so overpopulated that they had to like it's so overcrowded they had to shutter everything. So then right when it happened for them, right when they got hit with the pandemic, that we like they just everything just shut down, so we couldn't go in 2020. And I think then if it's 13 times, I think I may have gone like one more time like after the pandemic. I just don't remember if I did or I didn't. I'll just say like 13
14.
times. Yeah.
Wow. That's impressive. So now we're going to get into our next category of our discussion, which is about Texas! Texas,
Yeah.
baby! So,
Yeah.
Jewish life in Texas. Texas, the Lone Star State, one of the most free states, as many people like to say. A great state. And um, first of all, tell the audience briefly where in Texas you and your family live.
Yeah, so I live in this I basically live in Dallas Fort Worth, in the Metroplex, but like within Dallas Fort Worth, I live in a town called Flower Mound, which is but from what I know, I lived there my whole life, but like from what I know, it's basically halfway in between like let's say Denton and then Dallas, because Dallas is south of us and then Denton is north of us. So it's like halfway in between. It's a pretty
Oh,
good
wow.
location.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
So getting into our next question, so combining what it's like being Jewish and what it's like being a Texan, what is it like being a Jew in Texas, and um, how is Texas compared to any other place that you've lived?
I mean, so it's really interesting because like I don't really remember ever living in like Turkey or Israel, and that's like unfortunate because I was such a little kid. Like I was like, I mean, I was born in Turkey. I lived there just for like a year or two, and then I moved to Israel. Like we lived in my family, and I lived in my mom, dad, and I lived in Ranana, and we just lived there for like I think it's like another like year. So I don't remember any of that because I was like 3 years old when I came to America. So I pretty much lived in America really my whole life. Like because like from like what I can remember, all we have is just photographs of me living in Israel. With my mom and dad, but it was just like so. I mean, like
Mm,
yeah, I mean, like it's like yeah. So Jewish life in Texas, yeah. So basically, it's really interesting because since we first moved to Texas like a long time ago, back in 2007, back at that time, like my town was maybe like 10% of the population like it is now, or like 15% of what it is now. Like most of my town where I've always lived, my hometown, it's like most of it was farmland. Like it was just not developed at all. There were so few people living there. The population was like 20,000 people or something back then. So like there just really weren't any people living there back at that time, like back in like 2007 to like I would say like 2018, 2019, whatever, that, like really around that time. So then like when I was in elementary school, when I started elementary school, I don't remember exactly, but I think I started it back in like 2009 or 2010, something like that. I think 2010. Like when I started elementary school, I was like the only Jewish kid at that time in my entire elementary school, just because like there weren't really many people living in my town. Like it was really small, it really comparatively to like what it is now. Like so then, and then I was the only kid in my entire elementary school that was Jewish, all the way up until from kindergarten all the way up until second grade. And then when I was in second grade, it was really crazy because like it was like my class, like I remember there were these two new kids that like were new to like the to my class because they were like new to my town. They moved there to my town from New York, and I met them. I don't remember how I met them, but I met them somehow, and we became friends and started talking to them and stuff. And it turned out that that they said they moved from New York, and they moved from upstate New York, and their mom is from Israel, but their mom is from Haifa, and that their dad is from
Ooh.
Ohio. Originally, he's from a small town in Ohio, and it turns out that they were both Jewish. Their names were Eli Matan. Their names were Eli Matan. I met them in second grade in my class, and we became good friends. And then my mom came to I just from what I understand, like what I remember my parents telling me, like my mom came to like the parent teacher night or like parent teacher meeting night. I remember what that was called a long time ago in elementary school, but like they would have a parent teacher like whatever it is, like a event or something, like so like she went to that, and all the parents would come to that to talk to the to go talk to the kids teachers, and then at that event, like I went with my mom with it I went with her to that event back. This was like in second grade, this was back in like 2012. And then I was like, oh, to my mom, I was like, hey mom, these are my new friends. I made you on the ton, and then she met them and whatever, and she met their mom, and their mom's name was Sharon, and she's Israeli, she's from Haifa, and then like ever since then we've been like best friends, and everything, like so from second grade all the way to like now, even now, like right, like we're best friends and whatever. The only difference is now, we went to the same elementary school, but then basically we went to different middle schools because then right when I started middle school, like back in 2016, like in the summer,
Interesting.
yeah, like in the summer of 2016, I like moved to a different part of my town that was like a newer part of it that was like newly built, and I moved there, and I so because we needed because I mean like my family felt like we needed a bigger house. Kind of long story short, and then we moved to a bigger house that was like newer and stuff, and like that kind of thing. And then I went to a different like middle school that was like I didn't know anyone there because all my friends were like went to like lived in a different part of my town. Went to like the closer middle school, so I didn't know anyone there. Middle school was kind of rough, but then so I didn't really get to see those like my best friends in middle school, which was kind of unfortunate, but it was okay. Got through middle school, and then the high school. We all went to the same high school because my high school, like my town only has two high schools, like because it's so big, and both high schools are enormous, like 4,000 kids. And then the high school I went to was Slime High School. And then I saw my like best friends again, Yamaton there, and then so we basically just been best friends like throughout like life, pretty much ever since I met them. But then now we,
Well,
yeah, but then now we go to
well,
different. So like I was just saying, like now we go to different colleges. Basically, I'm
yeah.
at OU. They go to A&M or Texas Tech. Yeah.
That's fascinating. Thank you for so much info about Jewish life in Texas. It sounds like that the Jewish community is clearly quite small, but it's quite tight knit from how you're describing it, which is really
Yeah.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm used to being in a large, tight knit Jewish community where I grew up. As many of the viewers know, in one of the biggest Jewish areas in Canada. Um, and,
Yeah.
and briefly, would you describe the area of Texas you grew up in as as a strong Jewish community?
I mean, so it's not really. I mean, so it's actually a pretty good question because pretty much ever since we first moved to Texas, my family and I first moved to Texas back in 2007, and then like ever since then until now, even now, like there's like a really small Jewish community there. I just know that there's one synagogue for like my town and for like the next like neighboring like three towns, and the synagogue is like tiny. It's called synagogue like Kol Ami. It's a really small. I remember only going there like two times ever. One of them was for like a Hanukkah party, and I didn't like whenever I was there. I saw a bunch. I met a bunch of kids and stuff, and like people my age, but I didn't know any of them. Like they didn't go to my school or anything, or I didn't know any of them. And then I don't remember
Fascinating.
the other time I was there. Yeah, so it's like there's actually like not like it's actually like really like there really aren't many Jews living in that in my town or anything. Like it's like we have a
Wow.
tiny synagogue. Yeah.
About being a strong Jewish community, um, in Texas, have you ever faced anti-Semitism? And how do people react when they learn that you're Jewish? Do they have a strong reaction? Do they have a really positive reaction? Because as a Canadian, I don't know much about what it's like being a Jew living in the South.
I mean, yeah, so it's actually a really good question. So, like, obviously, like, most people can understand, like, whenever you're in elementary school, like, no one, like, really, like, no kids really understand, like, really the concept of religion and all that. Until, like, maybe, like, fourth or fifth grade, kind of when they start getting an idea. Because, like, like, they're just, like, little kids, right? So then, like, what happened was really interesting because in elementary school, like, it didn't matter. Like, no one understood any of it. So then, like, in middle school, though, like, basically, since I was in middle school, like, I had to go to a different middle school, and then because I moved to a new area in my town, and we wanted to get like just a bigger house because we lived in this like kind of like the first house we moved to in Texas and Flower Mound was like smaller, and it was only one story and like everything, and it was a really good like starter home, but it was just because like we were little kids, we didn't need a big place and everything. So, but then like as my younger sister and I have a younger sister, her name's Sarah. We like got older and grew up. My parents decided we needed to get a bigger house just because like it was just getting too small and it just wasn't really working anymore for us because we weren't little kids anymore. We were getting to be like like fifth, sixth grade, like kind of maturing and everything. Like so like we moved to a bigger house in this different part of my town. It was like a
Very
really small
interesting.
part of my town. Yeah, and then so
I
it was just like
yeah, I think you started to go a little bit off topic.
yeah. Sorry, I was just getting yeah. Sorry, I was just getting to it. So so
Okay.
yeah, sorry about that. I needed to kind of say that so people understood it. Yeah, so like,
Okay.
and then yeah, and then so we moved to this like new house in a different part of my town, and it coordinated like I was in a different like zoning area, like school zone for this different middle school, and then I started like sixth grade and everything. I didn't know any kids there at this middle school. I didn't know any of them because I didn't go to elementary school with them. So then basically, the first few weeks were rough because I didn't know any kids and it was hard to make friends and all stuff, and then like just go to class and all whatever I guess what I did. And then basically, what happened is my dad was like, I don't remember how he found out, but like he was like, oh, you should go and like try to join some kind of sports team. Like, you should try to do that. Maybe you can make friends that way. Because we were just kind of like, we just didn't know how to approach that. And how to, like kind of how I can get connections there at this new school. So then I decided to join this, like, kind of, I mean, I'm sure you know the sport really well, but basically, at that time, which was like 2016, basically 2016, 2017. I joined my middle school's like lacrosse team at that time,
Oh,
so like I joined it.
and fun fact about lacrosse: lacrosse is actually the national sport of Canada. Because in
Yeah,
Canada we have two national sports, and that's our national summer sport. So, fun fact for all the American viewers who don't know that. Sorry for
yeah.
interrupting.
No, you're good. Yeah. So then, like, I joined that, and then basically, like, whenever like I joined it, and at first, I'd never played lacrosse before, didn't know anything about it or whatever. So like, whenever I first started, when I joined it at first, we had to like I just remember like every single day after school, like most days after school ended at like it was late, like school, my school would end at like 4:30 or something, and I would have to go to practice and stuff, and I wouldn't get back home till like 7:30 at night, and then and just like keeping in mind, I had to get up at 7 a.m. the next day, so it was just like really stressful. And then on the weekends though, it just got worse because like then, basically on the weekends, I'd have to get up like really early, like 7, 8 a.m. A lot of the time, maybe 9 a.m. because then I have to eat breakfast, and then my dad would drive me to this like tournament, like these tournaments, and they'd be really far. Like some of them were like over an hour away, like they were really far away. So like a lot of them, and they'd be like all day events. Like they'd start at like around like I don't know like around 11 a.m. 12 p.m. and they'd go till like 4 or 5 in the afternoon. Like they're like really long. It was like there were long days. So it was just really stressful. And then the kind of thing is that, but like I think the reason why my dad wanted me to join it is so I could become more disciplined and like I could kind of have a different perspective on life of like how to make friends and how to
Mm.
confront adversity and everything. Like looking back on it, but then basically what happened is the first year I was on the lacrosse team, it was really rough because there were all these guys like on the team that I didn't really know, and like they were just like at that time, like this is just like back then, like at that time, they were all like really kind of nasty to me. Like I just never understood it really at that time. I never understood it, and they were all like jerks and stuff like that. And then somehow, like I don't remember how word got out, but somehow like they found out I was Jewish somehow. I don't remember, and that then they were making all these like anti-Semitic like remarks and like saying
That's awful.
yeah, they were saying like Heil Hitler and all this stuff, and like they were just like really like just like they were just like dickheads, like they were, and like at that like when that happened, like after that happened, I really wanted to quit the team, but my dad didn't let me, and he just said you have to just power through it, and that this is like gonna teach you a valuable
That's
lesson in
rough.
life. So like yeah, it was just really rough. But then the really ironic part about this whole story is that then that was in middle school. That was in like sixth, seventh grade. But then like several years later, like years later, when I like kind of after the pandemic and everything, when I was a freshman in high school at that time, back in 2020. But then back like when that was all over, like back in like junior like my junior year in high school and my senior year in high school, like 11th and 12th grade, in like 2022 through 2023 and 2024, I actually like kind of became friends with a lot of the same guys that were jerks to me like back in middle school, and it just turned out they were like legit like they just weren't really mature back then. They were like little kids. Like they just weren't really like like they didn't they weren't really all that mature. They just didn't know like kind of how to talk to different people, and they were just kind of awkward. That's why they were making these kind of like they were just being like jerks and like dickheads and stuff, being like anti-Semites then, and like they just didn't really they weren't really mature. And the funny
Yeah,
part of
good
it is that
stuff.
like a lot of them I kind of became friends with now, and the even funnier part is that a lot of them actually like some of those same kids actually go to my college now too. Like I've seen them here, and they're all grown up now. So it was just like a really kind of like at first it was a bad situation, and then I kind of understood as I grew up like what they were like why they were saying like saying these things like they just wanted attention. They just didn't really like know, they weren't educated or anything. They just didn't really know about Jewish people. They just kind of wanted attention and kind of wanted to clown off and that kind of thing. So I just like I it was like a learning kind of experience in a way.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Anti-Semitism is so horrible, and I don't know if I've told you guys on the podcast a lot of the incidents that happened to me, but if I haven't, I'll be talking about it eventually. Um, yeah, now let's talk about Jewish Texas politics a little bit briefly. How does the Jewish community engage with local politics or social issues within Texas?
I actually don't really know the answer to that. That's not something I've
Well,
ever really
that's
looked
okay.
into. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not for
That's
sure.
perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Do you find that the Jewish community is more left wing or more right wing? Because obviously most of the Jewish community post October 7th, we've all been shifting to the right because of all the pro Hamas um, idiots on the street. But do you find that same correlation? We'll say.
I mean, like, so, I mean, like, honestly, like, I have just no idea, like, broadly speaking, like, in the state of Texas or in Dallas Fort Worth, like, do most Jews, like, vote for conservative liberal candidates? I have no idea, like, local government, but all I really know is this. I can just say this, like, so my best friends that I met that are from upstate New York, like, that I met in second grade, like, Ilan Matan, like, their mom's from Israel and then their dad's from Ohio, like, they're, like, conservatives. Like they've always been conservative, like way before October 7th, they've always been conservative.
Wow.
They're like they support Trump and everything, and it's actually good. But they actually give a good reason because they say he's the most like pro-Israel president and everything, and he's just the most like friendly
Well, it is a
towards
true statement.
Hillary. Yeah, so
It's a very true statement.
yeah, pretty much yeah. So I have no idea what everyone like what
And
how they all, everyone else votes. Yeah.
and let's talk about a question I think you can answer a lot easier. Are there any Texas uh, Jewish traditions or influences that have really stood out to you, or that have really stuck with you over time?
That's actually a really good question. I don't like in terms of like Texas traditions. Yeah, like I don't know any. Like I honestly just I have no idea. Like I
Do
don't
you
know
wear a
any like.
cowboy hat?
No, I don't.
Yeah. Have you ever?
No.
Seriously,
I haven't. No.
I've never been to Texas, guys, but
Yeah.
I always imagine most people in Texas have cowboy hats. Maybe it's just me as an ignorant Canadian. I really do want to go to Texas because it seems quite nice. Hot during the summer, obviously, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it seems like a
Yeah.
great place.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but I mean, it's just like honestly, like just like with pretty much every state in America and pretty much every country around the world, really. It just depends on like like it like there are different parts of Texas that are great, and then there are parts of Texas that really aren't as nice or like aren't as good. It just depends on where you go. Like some and like that's just kind of a universally kind of like accepted kind of concept. Like really, like there are just nicer parts of places, and there are places that are just not as nice. So it just depends on where you go in Texas if you visit, pretty much.
Yeah, of course, there are definitely good and bad places. Um, what's one massive misconception that you find people have about the Jews in Texas? And I think I may have mentioned one.
Yeah, I mean, so that's actually also a really good question. Yeah, so
Thank you.
I would I would say that like maybe a massive misconception about all the Jews in Texas is that like maybe that like they're all like cowboys or they're all like like they all have guns or something. I have like something like that. Like they're all like they're they're all like John Wick, I guess. Like people kind of because whenever they think of
Howdy.
Texas, people are yeah, people like whenever people think of Texas, they think of just like cowboys with guns. Like they don't think of like anything else. So like it's a huge misconception, but it's also kind of a stereotype too. So
Yeah, and stereotypes can be good and bad.
yeah,
There are many bad stereotypes, but there are also many good ones.
yeah,
Many people will say that. Um,
yeah.
what's some similarities and differences between your between your Jewish traditions and your Jewish between your Jewish traditions and your Texas traditions, or you can even
Um,
compare and contrast the Turkish traditions into that if you want.
yeah. I mean, like I mean, honestly, like I don't really know of really any like Texas traditions. Like I just don't really know. I mean, I guess the only thing you can really think I can really think of is like going and eating barbecue. I just don't really like Texas style barbecue. I just don't really know of any. Like I mean, it's just not like we don't have any holidays or anything. I mean, I just don't know. But in terms of like the only really comparison I can make is like when it comes like is like the comparison like comparing like Bayram and then Hanukkah because like Bayram we just get like it's just like a 1 day event thing like just a 1 day but like then on that day like all the young people get like money and from their like parents and not from their parents but from the adults that like from other adults and stuff and they get it in like an envelope and
Fascinating.
they get and then yeah they get like dollar bills normally in the envelope and then like Hanukkah it's like comparable because Hanukkah like all 8 nights or right like yeah like all 8 nights we get like a gift so I guess in terms of like getting gifts like on these different holidays like for Bayram and like the Turkish holiday and then for Hanukkah like the 8 nights of Hanukkah it's like comparable because it's just like gift giving and gift and like then receiving gifts and that kind of thing but in terms of like text traditions I mean I have no idea like I just don't know of any of them so
And on that topic of barbecue you just mentioned, are there any really good barbecue places that you recommend within like the area that you've been within, like the Dallas Fort Worth area? Let's say there's someone on this podcast that really wants to know a good Texas barbecue place. I'm speaking in a Texas accent. You can rate my accent too. Well, where's a good place to go for some good old Texas barbecue? I feel like singing
like
that song.
yeah, I mean, like there's really a lot of good places. Like the only one I can really think of right off the top of my head right now, I would say is Pecan Lodge. It's in the city of Dallas, but it's like
Pecan
one of the
Lodge.
top.
Is it
Yeah, it's one of the
pecan or
top.
pecan?
I say pecan because I just don't have like I'm. People tell me I have some kind of accent. Don't know really what they mean because I
I
just
think
don't.
your accent's cool because
Yeah,
I
thanks.
obviously have a mid-Atlantic northeastern accent,
Yeah,
so I probably sound like an elitist from Boston or New York.
yeah. I've never.
That's a
Yeah,
Southerners probably say I am. Um,
yeah.
but Pecan Lodge, everyone. If you
Yeah.
need a good Texas barbecue place in the DFW area, Pecan Lodge. Um, it- do you have any advice for Jews living in places where they might feel like a small minority?
Yeah,
Since you've been like the lone Jew in so many areas, what's
yeah.
your
I
advice
mean,
to Jews in heavy minority?
yeah. So like my like it really like I kind of have like kind of two pieces of advice depending on where they live because it just like this is something that It just depends on where they live. Like if they live in an area of like if they live in a state in America, let's say that like doesn't really like let's say is like really liberal or like really like like liberal, yeah, and doesn't have like and the gun laws are really strict and they can't really have access to guns, like they can't really buy them or anything, to defend themselves. I would say then they need to like people like living in those states need to like kind of stick to they basically need to stick together and they need to kind of like make like kind of try to like make friends or make how do I say this like make friends or kind of like try to make allies with like the Christian community and like with like the Hindu community and people that are supportive more supportive of Israel because of the common enemy of like radical Islam. Like they need to make like kind of these like kind of friendship like I don't want to say friendships but like they need to make kind of like people know what I mean. They need to kind of like get allies and they need to kind of make allies right with them but with these different communities. But then if you're a Jew, if you're Jewish, you live in like a red state like in Texas, like anywhere in the South, like Texas or Oklahoma or really anywhere in the South, really, like all the southern states, Sun Belt, like where I mean, for number one, the anti-Semitism has been like not bad at all. I mean, not where I am, it's not bad at all because it's just not like it's not tolerated, and the like like the state authorities like have law enforcement take care of the like violent pro Hamas lunatics and people
Yeah.
at the college campuses. But like on top of that, the main that's not really the main reason. The main reason why is because is that like in the South in the southern states in the red states like people are able to own guns. So like for instance, there's this really famous guy in Dallas. He lives in I think he lives in like Dallas or Houston or he lives in Texas, and he's on like Instagram. People can look him up. His name is the Pew Pew Jew. And if people don't know who that is, he's basically this Orthodox Jewish guy that lives in like Texas, and his whole like persona, like his whole thing is basically to just like gun
Mm,
ownership. Like he's like a huge
love
Second
it.
Amendment like yeah he's a huge Second Amendment so like advocate. He owns like tons of guns. He lives in Texas, yeah, and so he just like and he basically promotes like if you're a Jew living in a red state, you're Jewish living in a red state, and you feel like like you feel like you're not super safe, or you're maybe like your kids maybe you're in a more liberal part of that red state, like a liberal city or something. You should like that you should definitely like they should definitely buy guns and buy ammunition and like train like learn how to use them, train and learn how to defend themselves and their families and everything. So if at any point some lunatic attacks them or their families, they're able to like take them down, so they don't have to just like get just be the victim of like just like lunatics like hate crimes and stuff. Like they don't have to just be at the mercy of their attackers. And so that's like what I would say. It just depends kind of where you live. It's just kind of like one of those two things. That's what I would say.
Very interesting. Uh, because I know you've definitely talked to me a lot when you and I text about how amazing the government's been there down south to protect the Jewish community post October 7th. How the Governor Greg Abbott has been really good about protecting the community, and I'm sure that the governor of Oklahoma is the exact same. Who's the governor down there in Oklahoma?
His name is Kevin Stead. He's really good.
Oh,
Yeah,
Kevin Stitt. Yeah, I do recognize that name.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
one fact I didn't learn until only a couple years ago is that Greg Abbott's in a wheelchair. And it's a really interesting story about how he got paralyzed. I shouldn't get into it, but um, it, really interesting story if you guys ever want to search it up. Um, and now we're getting into a topic that I know Alex really wants to get into. Is he constantly texts me a very famous line of his. Alex, please tell us about Muslims and Islamists, and make sure to say your favorite lines.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not.
And you can be comedic if you want about it.
Yeah, so it's not like it's just that like I mean anyone really that at this point now I feel like I'll just start with this. At this point, any one of your viewers that are like living in Europe, in Western Europe, or any one of your viewers that live in like the northeastern states in America or anywhere like where they have problems with just mass Islamic migration, and they just let all these people in, and there's no like kind of system, right? Like of like how to integrate them into society. You know what I'm talking about? Like at the bottom line is this. It's just I just don't like. I just do not believe it is a peaceful religion at its core. Like I've done research, a lot of research into it. It's not. There's just like it's just so prone to radicalism and everything, and they're just like it's just when you have just like unfettered numbers of Islamic immigrants or migrants just taking over cities or taking over different areas or countries. Like it's just like their country or city will just be destroyed. Like it'll just be a shithole. It'll be turned into a shithole. The values just cannot get their values cannot get into cannot assimilate into Western civilization. Like obviously, it's not. I'm not talking about like every single individual Muslim. I'm talking about like Muslims, like just en masse, like like mass numbers of them. And yeah, I mean, like when it comes to this concept, like it becomes a cancer to like the society or to the to the cities they take over. I mean, like they just destroy them. So I would just say that, and like that's also and like so like that's kind of my view of it is like yeah, I mean if you're living in a really Islamic, like in a heavily Islamic area and you're not a Muslim, it's just going to be really tough for you because they just
Absolutely.
destroy the area. Like they just destroy everything. And like, especially if any of your viewers live in the UK, I follow what's been going on there really closely. With the grooming gangs and really with what's been going on there, and that's really the prime example of like they just do not have like literally like they just do not have equal justice there under the law. Like Muslims can just get away with anything. Like the grooming gangs, the grooming gangs there got away with what they did to all these white working class British girls because they were Muslim and because the police and the government like couldn't like no one could like snitch on them because they would be afraid they're so afraid of being called Islamophobic and just being like kind of having their reputations destroyed, which is a joke because it allowed just like a mass rape scandal to go uncovered for years. So like that's kind of what I'm saying, pretty much.
Fascinating. It's fascinating to hear your opinion about their quote unquote religion of peace. Or as I refer to it, the religion of pieces, because they'll be blown to pieces by their suicide bombs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. Yeah.
Uh,
It's just yeah. It's obviously like it's just this is basically an issue where like it seems it's pretty clear at this point. The it's pretty clear at this point that that you either like people either kind of go like governments either go extreme in one direction or extreme in the other with this issue. Like they just kind of either they let in all these different like just like unlimited numbers of Muslims in their countries, and they get and their countries pretty much get destroyed, or they don't let in like any Muslims at all. Like Poland hasn't let in a single Muslim like asylum seeker or refugee. They haven't let in a single one, and they've never had any terrorist attacks or anything. Same thing with a lot of countries in Eastern Europe. Like I know also I think what is I forget the other name, the other country that does that hasn't let in any. But like yeah, so it seems like they've been going like governments have been taking like either one of two extreme approaches with this issue, and that like they just get polar opposite results pretty much.
yeah, definitely. You're definitely making some really good points. And since we probably should start wrapping up soon because it's late at night and I feel bad keeping you up because I know you just finished the class. And for me, it's much later than you. Where can people find you on? Because this is obviously we post on YouTube, so tell the YouTube viewers where they can find you, or on Instagram because we're gonna do a post on Instagram and we'll post clips on there, and Twitter, and you can tell them Facebook and MySpace and all those sites.
Yeah, so yeah, it's fine. So pretty, like it's I don't have any issue with people following me. I just have to know that they're legit people. It's not like a bot or scammer or
Yeah,
any of that because I get tons of those
we
people.
have
Yeah,
well, we have almost 400 followers on YouTube, and we have almost 1,000 on Instagram. So
okay,
I think some of our viewers might be big fans of you after hearing some of your opinions, because I think that you have some very good opinions on a lot of things, and a very
yeah.
fascinating Turkish Jewish story. Uh,
So pretty much like when it comes to I'm only using Instagram now because I'm kind of thankful that I've been like totally uncensored now. Like they like kind of unban me or uncensored my account now for like a week or two. Hopefully that like they that holds up and that doesn't and they don't like ban me again or what, or they don't censor my account again. But like for like right now, it's I'm all good with that. So I only really use Instagram. I don't use any other social media. But on Instagram, they can find me like at underscore all lowercase, no spaces, Alex Ignatow, Alex, and then Ignatow, like all lowercase, no spaces, and there's an underscore at the start of that. And then my like yeah, and then so my profile picture is just me sitting at like a table and I'm like smiling pretty much. So like they should probably know it when they see that account when they look it up pretty much. So yeah.
Fascinating, guys. Make sure to go follow him on Instagram. We thank him so much for joining us. Um, and make sure to if you're still here, if you're still watching, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and comment some more questions for Alex. And if you want him to come back on the podcast, and who else we should interview in the future. Have a great day, y'all. See y'all.